It's always something that you're going to deal with. But once you recognize what self-doubt is and what it's doing to you, it's easier to counter it, right? And you counter it just by accepting what it is. It is natural to doubt yourself and to be afraid. You just have to do it and understand, hey, man, if it screws up, you'll fix it. We are live for another episode of Motivation Mondays, where it's all about keeping you and us, right, pumped, motivated, ready to attack the week ahead, right? Last week was Black Friday. I know a lot of you did quite well, which is good to hear, right? You know, we had a pretty good couple days as well. We'll talk about that more on tomorrow's call, right? Right now, today, we want to talk about your mindset and type of things that you need to get in place to help you be the best version of yourself, right? Today, we want to talk about the 4 insidious symptoms of self-sabotage, right? This is something that, you know, I spent a lot of time talking about with my business performance coach, right? And some of the things that hurt entrepreneurs and athletes and just people like us in general across the board, right? These 4 big things. So the first thing that we want to talk about, right, is one that is kind of obvious, but most people don't really understand how to deal with it. And that's self-doubt, right? Self-doubt based on your past experiences, right? Self-doubt based on your peers, the people around you, right? Self-doubt based on just doing something new in general, something that is different for you, right? All of the self-doubt is one of the biggest handicaps to your growth, because you literally can psych yourself out of success, right? Listen, what are some of the things that you've seen that can happen when someone has too much self-doubt or struggles with that?
Feel like they get into this analysis paralysis where they're just trying to figure it all out before they actually kick the ball. If you kick the ball down the road, you're usually going to get a better indication of what needs to be done anyway. So I think the biggest culprit with self-doubt, at least for me, is I just freeze and I don't do a damn thing, versus taking the mentality of, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm trying something new, just like everybody else has to try something new to achieve any of the results I've been watching online of all my competitors and the people that I look up to. It's actually kicking that ball and deciding you're going to fail fast versus letting that self-doubt end up being that freezing point.
Bam. Yeah, I love that, right? Fail fast. Why do all the billionaires say that? Why do the business visionaries that we all look up to say things like fail fast, right? Because everybody fails. Right? We all fail time and time again, right? How many shots did Michael Jordan miss in the gym so that way he could make the ones that counted, right? It's always like that for everybody. You're no different than these top performers that you see, right? They all went into it with the same butterflies in their stomach or that same self-doubt. And that's why things like your past and your peers and just diving into something new can be so dangerous for you and your mindset. Right. So the real key is, just like Alyssa said, right? You just have to kick the ball. Like, that self-doubt is always going to be there. You're always going to feel that fear. That is a natural reaction from your body as it does something different, as it does something new. It's that fight or flight, right? And your body wants to fly. It wants to get out of there whenever you do something uncomfortable, which a lot of you are doing, right? Whether it's getting to that first 10K mark, getting to that 20K mark. God, man, once you get 20K, it really gets hard because you have to do so much different stuff, right? It's always something that you're going to deal with. But once you recognize what self-doubt is and what it's doing to you, it's easier to counter it, right? And you counter it just by accepting what it is. It is natural to doubt yourself and to be afraid. You just have to do it and understand, hey, man, if it screws up, you'll fix it. Right? That's the name of the game, right? Fix it. But while you're working on fixing it, it's also important not to get too distracted, which brings us to the second insidious symptom of self-sabotage.
Yeah, this one is called many different things, but I think the thing that we use in our businesses the most is calling it just the shiny object syndrome. We go into a month, we go into a week, and this is what we're going to get done. We make that promise to ourselves. We make our promises to our group of people, whoever is in that tribe of yours, and we turn around and start doing it and then decide, oh, but I didn't think of XYZ. And then I start going and doing XYZ. And then I turn around, I'm like, well, now that I've saw that, I realize I actually don't know what I'm doing with this piece of it. Maybe I should go read another book, 3 more podcasts need to be listened to, and then I'm going to go watch YouTube for 3 or 4 hours so that I know exactly what I'm doing and that I understand everything about it before I actually start doing that piece. And before you know it, these little side roads have ended up taking you completely off course, and you never actually achieved this one thing. And when we're talking about kicking the ball, it's not kick all of the balls. We're going to kick the ball that we actually have in front of us, that we have made that promise to ourselves that we're going to go achieve that today. And that's the thing with shiny object syndrome, is it feels like productivity. It feels like we're getting so much shit done.
But
But
you're
we're not
not.
getting the right shit done. We're doing too many things. We're being way too segmented and where we're putting our brain. And I feel like I know lots of people that are way smarter than me. And one question I always like to ask is, how great are you at multitasking? How do I get better at multitasking? And after years of being hit on the head and saying, stop multitasking, that's not what you're meant to do. And multitasking always seems like that productivity hack, but really it's just another indication that you have a problem with shiny object syndrome and that you're not going to be able to achieve what you wanted to achieve. And that self-sabotage comes from this perfect place of, I want to do and I want to get things done and I want to be fantastic at what I do. That energy has to stay in what you're doing, but it has to shift back into what you're prioritizing, what you're saying you're going to get done. And that's a promise you've made to yourself. You don't want to break that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we're as entrepreneurs, we all wear so many hats, especially in e-commerce, right? Because not only do you have to be, a product expert for whatever it is you're selling, but you're also, you're dealing with your store, you're dealing with your email, you're dealing with your ads, you're dealing with all these other different moving pieces. And each moving piece has its own, like, a million YouTube videos that you can watch on any given thing, and you can just run around to all these different things. And there's so many things that need to get done at any given time. Like Alyssa's saying, like, so many balls to kick. Really, the best way to do is just to zero in on what is the most important thing to do next, right? This is my goal. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. Right? This is why the program itself is broken down into phases, right? Before you get into all this traffic and other stuff, you want to make sure that you've got your store together, right? Before you're putting all this pressure on your ads and your intake, you want to make sure that you have like your opt-in and at least some sort of messaging in the background. So that way you can give yourself some breathing room, right? And then when it comes into ads, you focus on a platform, you get the platform together or not, or you move to another platform and keep it moving. But it's take the next step. Not all of them. Some of you will try to do 10 million different things at one time. Don't. Do the one thing. Get the one check mark. Then move on to the next check mark, right?
Agreed. I want to say too, when you said that, one thing I think you've talked to me about a couple of times is this idea of false dependencies too. And I think that ends up being your shiny object because you're sitting there going like, but I have to do this too. And it's really not a two, it's a, and I could versus I have to get it done. So it's such a problem that I have, at least. So if you guys have the problem too, comment, tell me I'm not alone.
Right? Can versus should. We can do a bunch of stuff. Does that mean we should do it right now? We should do it next? Maybe not. Right? Maybe not. And speaking of things that we can do versus things that we should do, that brings us to our third insidious symptom of self-sabotage, and that is being a dopamine junkie, right? This comes from comfort, right? This is something that is probably my biggest thing that I have to deal with, right? Is you get comfortable after a while. Once you're making X amount of money, you've got success under your belt, you've got different things going on, you can get the things that you want, like you've got a nice car, like you have all these different things. And it's like, you know, what is motivating you to get up and do the things that you have to? Because your body releases dopamine by doing activities that excite it, right? If that's the reason it's easier to binge watch your favorite show on Netflix, right? Versus doing what you need to be doing, right? I could watch a football game and time flies, right? But if I have to sit down and, put something together, or maybe I'm looking through some numbers on XYZ or putting together a training, like there's all these different things that don't necessarily release the same dopamine that a football game or playing my PlayStation 5 or just hanging out at the pool, right? Dopamine. It is your worst enemy as an entrepreneur when you're trying to take yourself to the next level, right? And it is a natural thing that your body does. There's a reason that it's so much easier to do the things that you want, right? Like, that one is a tough one. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from certain things. Like me, how do I manage my dopamine addiction, right? When I know I have a lot of things that I have to knock out, like Black Friday, Cyber Week type deal, right? Is I segment my time, right? I segment my time and I use like a rewards structure, right? Well, I want to play my PlayStation 5. Okay, well, I need to have XYZ done. These 3 check marks, these 5 check marks, all this needs to be done. And then that's my reward at the end, right? I want to actually be able to watch Monday Night Football. Hey, I need to have XYZ done. Otherwise, I'm working when it's on, and I don't want to do that. You want to see somebody work fast? Have the things that you love be conditional on certain success triggers, right? At least that's how I deal with dopamine. All right, how do you deal with it, Alyssa?
It's probably the same. I am probably a little different in the fact that I get anxiety about crap that needs to get done, which is something that makes me very successful in certain ways, but not in other ways at the same time. But when you were saying that, one awful realization I had maybe earlier this year was our youngest is 5. So everything is about a reward system, right? So it's constantly reminding him, like, if you want to go play Minecraft for an hour, you got to get the homework done. That's going to be number 1. And if you choose not to do the homework, you're choosing not to get to do what you want to do. It felt so stupid to turn around and go, I don't actually do that with myself. If I make appointments, if I set things up that I'm going to go get a massage, go do whatever I want, go out to the beach, like, it didn't really matter if I did any of the things that needed to get done. So my responsibility level sometimes likes to wane. Does it bother the hell out of me? Yes. I might not be very excited when I go to do the things I actually want to do because I feel like I didn't do the items that I was responsible for, but I never actually held myself accountable for that. It's kind of crappy being a parent when you get to stop and look at what you're trying to reinforce and how you actually do it with yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we all, our bodies react differently to stimulus, right? Now, you all noticed how she got a kind of a quiet dig at me when she says her 5-year-old plays games and then she uses that as a reward system. So me, I'm a grown man talking about playing my PlayStation 5 and that's how I reward myself. But it's okay. It's okay, right? But I mean, but everybody's a little bit different. So you have to figure out what your triggers are. Your trigger might be going out with your friends. Your trigger might be doing whatever, right? What is what is causing you to push the things that you need to do back, right? Are you putting your pleasure ahead of your productivity? If you find yourself doing that, that's natural, that's dopamine, right? But you need to do something about it. And a lot of time that's not just a willpower thing. Mm-hmm. It's not just a willpower thing. It is an actual process thing. It is an actual build a system, build some sort of thing to help you do that, right? Like Alyssa, she won't admit it, but getting stuff done and all this, that's what releases her dopamine, right? So in her case though, right, and I'll just share a little bit of it, but like maybe that can hurt on her personal end of things, right? So she almost has to do like a reverse to help herself, right? So that way she's not all business and not, so she has to set time, she has to set limits on when she's doing what. And she has to segment her time so that way she can still have time to do the other things in life that are important, that deliver a different kind of pleasure and a different kind of dopamine, right? Everybody's a little bit different, but it's about self-control and knowing your body so you can be the best version of yourselves, right? It's not all about making money, right? Making money is great, especially when you're not making as much as you'd like. But when you start making good money and you still have another plateau to get to, that's when having control over your dopamine and having control over your body in general makes a massive, massive difference, right? And when it comes to execution of these things, right? One of the reasons, if you have to force yourself to do something that's not necessarily releasing dopamine, right? And you have to sit down and get it done. How do you get it done quickly? How do you avoid the blank screen syndrome or the, oh, I'm going to take forever just to get started syndrome, right? What do you think, Alyssa? What can somebody do?
I never have a blank screen. It is very annoying. I will tell you that some people have tried this hack, they hate it. But there is an issue with you not having operating procedures for yourself. When we're in the corporate world, we work with somebody else, somebody is always handing that down to us. They tell me exactly how I'm going to do it, why I'm going to do it, how I'm going to get it done. But then suddenly when you shift and you're the CEO, we don't think about the fact that there's processes unless we're looking at it in some sort of system. But there's a lot that happens in your business that has no system. It's not all going into ClickFunnels. It's not all looking into Shopify. Like there's pieces of administrative work that I have to get done in order to get things working. There's a lot of processes that I have to put in place for myself, either one to manage that risk of being that dopamine junkie or turning around and not actually knowing what to do. And then again, like I said before, that freeze moment of not actually starting something can be a big problem. So one thing that I do is absolutely everything that I do during the week, whether it's brand new or not, I keep just a tight list. I did this, I did that, I did that. At the end of the week, that's when I actually go back and look at it and say, okay, what of this is a process and what of this was something that had to get done? And a lot of times you'll see the overlap. When I go through and look at our students, you know, we all talk, but I have a process from day one of starting into Max Your Sales. These are the things that I have to get done. Some of them were bullshit. Some of them made no difference at all. Some of them died on day 2. But I'm not going to start with a process that is just going to happen, because I've yet to see anything in my life that just randomly happened that I was responsible for. If I'm responsible for it, it's got to have some sort of steps that I need to take. And if I'm not paying attention to what those steps are, in SOP, standard operating procedures, they sound so formal and crazy. It's a list. It's things that need to get done. If you start everything, single new project that you do with just a quick list of these are the things I need to do, chances are every time you start something new, you might have the same items to do. That makes it easy when you're sitting there and you're distracted and you're deciding you're going to start scrolling through your phone because you don't feel like you know what to do, because this is a brand new project. It's a brand new email drip that we're going to do. It's a brand new automation and upsell feature that we're going to launch. But actually, is it really that different than some of the other things you need to do? I need to figure out what my goal is. I need to figure out who needs to be involved. If I need to learn anything, I need to take that actual step of, if it's an upsell, I need to create the page. I need to decide what that offer is. Some of these things that we take for granted as like, I have to go do this and it's brand new. Most of the time it's not new at all. The pieces of it actually are the same things over and over again. But for some reason, when you start and you're going, okay, how do I do this? It always feels like we have no idea. So I keep crazy lists, like pisses people off how many lists I have. The list ain't for them. They're for me. But that's how I end up building those processes. And I'm not afraid to turn around and change those as I go. Again, we don't want to look at the shiny objects. I don't want to say, oh, there must be a better way to process this, so I'm going to stop and scrap everything. But we're going to actually take those things, write them down. When you go to hire your VA because you finally get to that point where you're the CEO and you don't have time for half of that crap,
Right.
you don't know what to hand off to them. You don't, because you have everything just living in your brain. I want nothing to live in my brain, because at the end of the day, the CEO doesn't always do all those pieces and steps. That's how you scale. That's how you grow. So it doesn't matter what business we're starting. It doesn't matter if we're the only person in that business. It doesn't matter if we've scaled up. No matter what, if you have that standard operating procedures, you know what you're going to do and you know what you're going to do next, and you're never frozen in place. But that self-sabotage of, I know what I'm doing, or I don't know what I'm doing, so I can't write any procedures down. That's a bullshit excuse, because we always know.
Totally. No, that, folks, that is probably the most important takeaway from this motivational piece here, this productivity piece that you're watching here, right, is to create standard operating procedures for the different things that you have to do, right? Because lack of clarity is one of the biggest things that can slow you down in anything, right? Not knowing what to do next, or when you're sitting knowing that you have to do something, but not knowing exactly how to do it or what to do first, creates so much frustration that that's when you end up having to take a break, right? That's when you end up lost in your thoughts, and it takes you a while just to get going because you don't have a process. So one thing that I've noticed with a lot of our students is, we have all these different cheat sheets and checklists and different things throughout the modules. So some of you guys, you watch the videos and then you'll use it maybe once and then you'll move on and you'll get caught into the day-to-day rigmarole, right? There's a reason that those cheat sheets and checklists exist. I still use them every single day, right? We all still use these different cheat sheets. Okay, hey, I want to set up an ad campaign. I'm gonna look at my ad cheat sheet. I'm doing some stuff with emails. I'm going to start with a template. I'm trying to see what's going on with the product page, and my traffic is coming here and it's not doing well. What do I do? I'm going to look at my product page's cheat sheet, right? Standard operating procedures. What do you do when you're dealing with your administrative stuff, right? You can't just be dealing with customer service all throughout the day, all willy-nilly, right? You have to have a process of when you're getting to what. Otherwise, you will lose control of your day. You'll lose control of your activities. You'll lose control of your productivity, right? Setting up SOPs for the different things that you do every single day is going to be one of the most viable things that you folks can do. It's going to empower you so much. When I have to do this, I do this, this, and this. That's done, on to the next thing, right? I want to evaluate how something is doing. I'm looking for this, this, and this. It's done, okay, on to the next thing. And that's how you can actually get more done in a day, right? We all have the same amount of hours in a day as these billionaires do. And half of those guys spend, out of 24 hours, they spend like 6 of them like in the forest meditating and shit. Like they live in weird ways, man. I know I've met some, and they literally like they just sit and think for hours, right? Because the other things that they do, they have processes in place for. Processes, right? Processes have helped Alyssa and I get to the levels that we're at, where she's conquered the corporate world. I've built multiple 6-figure ecom brands now, right? I've helped some of you turn your brands into multiple 6-figure brands, right? That's not because I got lucky or because of, supreme talent. Well, maybe I'm a little bit talented, right? No, it's because it's a process. And I literally try to download those same processes into you, right? So when we talk about the 4 insidious symptoms of self-sabotage is the problem. These are the symptoms, right? Symptoms of self-sabotage, right? You're dealing with self-doubt. You're dealing with the shiny object syndrome. You're dealing with, dopamine rushes and being a dopamine junkie, right? Not knowing how to turn on and turn off, right? And then you don't have standard operating procedures in place to help you accomplish your goals. When you have these 4 things going on, it makes it very difficult to be successful. But just by addressing them, addressing your mindset, addressing how you're tackling the different problems, addressing when you do what, and creating tools to help you be your best. That's what's going to help you be your best, right? This thing isn't all about sales and numbers and marketing, right? Tell everyone that's in this program, I told you the same thing when you first joined, right? This game is 50% math, 50% psychology. 50% psychology. And I'm not talking about your customer psychology. I'm talking about your psychology, right? That's why we do these Motivation Mondays. That's why taking care of your mindset is equally as important as taking care of your store and your marketing and all that other stuff, right? So definitely take that to heart. Definitely, understand these 4 symptoms and how to deal with each of them. And I promise you, over the course of the next 12 months, you will be amazed at the transformation that you have. Amazed, right? Go forth and be great. We'll see y'all next time.